Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Joey Fameli and today I'm going to be showing you a brand new piece of lighting tech that I've been playing with, the HydraPanels by Astera. Now, these are made by Astera, a company that I've used in the past in their Titan tubes. These are LED tubes. You've been seeing them get a lot more popular lately with companies like Aperture and Nanlite, I believe, who've been making a ton of different tubes with options and pixel mapping choices. But Astera is the one that I've always used in the past on productions. It's usually been rentals. They are quite pricey, but they have what's called the Titan engine inside of them, meaning that you can have an insane amount of DMX style controls from your app or your phone to do all sorts of things, do sync sets, flow sets, basically group lights together, or just do effects like you see on these panels here. These Astera HydraPanels are all using that same Titan engine. Now, a number of disclaimers to give up front. I chatted with Astera for a long while at Cinegear earlier this year, and they sent me this 4-unit kit as a review unit, mainly because I wanted to test the lights out, but also I wanted to really dive into that Titan engine and see what I can do with syncing up these lights and doing some DMX style controls. I've used the Titan tubes a bunch in the past. We've normally rented out a big batch of them and did them, sync them together, use them as effects. You'll see them a bunch in music videos. They're very popular in feature films. Television shows, they're very easy to use, and so a lot of production houses usually have them. I've played with Quasar tubes in the past, which is another big company, but I have not really checked out Aperture. I've not really checked out the Nanlite tube lights that they've been making, and so my bias kind of lies on Astera only because I'm so familiar with the Titan tubes in general and that Titan engine, which has been exciting for me to play with these HydraPanels because this small form factor light is something that we use quite often at Test It, not only to bring with us on location to places, but also just as little kicker lights, and also the size of them allows me to attach it maybe onto a camera or my Easy Rig to give some talent light. And so this was, again, that is probably overkill just to use it for a light because a lot of what you're paying for is in that Titan engine, but having the ability to do some effects, which is very exciting for me as a cinematographer who likes to play around with lighting gags quite often. Now the HydraPanel is an RGB plus mid-amber color range. It also has the controls to go through daylight to tungsten, even past those amounts. And you can see here that it's lined up with a number of LED units. And this is actually what's called a 6-pixel unit, meaning there are 1 pixel here, 1 pixel here, 1 pixel here, and then on the other side as well. And the ability to control those independently are what give you the effects that you can do. Fire effect, for example. I think I have this one right here is just scrolling through some rainbows, some colors. This one's doing what's called like the ice effect. So a lot of different blues, shades of blues happening between those 6 pixels. So all your effects sort of live in there. For example, when you do a fire gag, you do want those reds and oranges to sort of flicker, but also when you have them in one unit, that gives you almost one source of light. So your shadows, the bouncing shadows doesn't quite have the same effect as a fire would. And so what you want to do is like link up these units and have them all do fire together, and that'll give you multiple shadows and give you something a little bit more realistic of a fire light. But that's probably the simplest version of using the effects on these. A lot of cool things really start happening when you link these panels up. And you can do that through the app, or you can also physically link them together the way I have them here. There is little accessories that come with these that attach the units, and when they attach, they sort of talk to each other and they know that they are now part of one unit. And so instead of 6 pixels, you have 12 pixels working here, and so you can do effects throughout the entire light. And you can just keep connecting these things. And that's what the Titan tubes have always been great for, is doing this effect down this range of tubes, all these pixels sort of working together. And that's exactly what's happening here, is that I can put these together, control them, and treat them as multiple pixels instead of just those 6 pixels to work with. So your options for effects, your options for lighting gags start to balloon, and there's like the possibilities become insane when you want to deal with certain lighting gags. Now let's back up and talk about the physical unit here. Here's some specs about the internal batteries and the weight, but also one of my favorite things is the ability to daisy chain power. So right now I have these all connected to a power source, one single power source, and then I have these cables that come with it. Each unit has two female ports that you can then link up these power cables. So while this one's getting main power from the wall, it's then passing power onto this, which is passing power to this, and so forth. And so you can daisy chain these together so that you can keep them all running off of one power supply instead of multiple ones. Now there are no 1/4-inch jacks on the light unit itself, and that's a little unusual, but I'll explain why. You have two cold shoe mounts here, and the accessories that come with this sort of attach into those cold shoes and then give you some options there. And so let me take off one here and show you what we're working with here. So there are two accessories attached here. I have the what's like the stand. It's like a little foot stand that allows you to set the light onto a table that attaches into the cold shoe, but then that also gives you your 1/4 inch or your 1/2 inch screw inserts. And then they have baby pins that you can attach onto that. And so the way I have it rigged to here is I have that foot stand attached here. You can just fold that up and then it becomes sort of inconspicuous. And then I have the baby pin attached into the 1/4 inch here. And so you can sort of play around with that. And you use the cold shoes also with another accessory, and that's how you bracket these together. You mount them together through those two cold shoes, and then there's a little pressure screw that will hold them into place. On the back of the unit is actually one of my favorite things to do with lights, and that's use magnets. There's a giant magnet on the back that allows you to just boom, attach this to any sort of metal surface. I've actually rigged together. I was using some little lights that were going to be practical on camera, and I actually ended up going to Home Depot, buying some like strong magnets and attaching, basically creating my own magnet attachment for my lights. And so I like to do that when I like to mount things, keep stands off the floor. I like to mount things up or not mount them at all, just stick them to things as much as possible to limit the amount of accessories I'm adding. So the magnets are a great little, that's a great little add-on, I think, for these lights. So let's talk about the light modifying accessories. Now, I love to use light modifiers. I use them pretty much on every light. And most of the time when you're using big lights, you're using extra like C-stands and stuff to lay it on grid cloth or silk or shoot light through things. It's great when little lights like this have their own way to mount the modifiers onto the unit itself. And so these lights were considered, were used with that in consideration. And you can see that there's a bunch of bare LED lights, and that's good for some effects, but sometimes you really want to soften that up and use diffusers. And so these come with these like diffusion blocks that have magnets inside, and they just lock right on, right? There are also egg crates, what these do is essentially direct the light to make the beam more narrow. And so if you see, you have a light spill off the sides and you want to direct it down, you can just throw on the egg crate, and now you're having more of a beam that is focused. This is a 60 degree, I believe, and then there's a 40 degree more narrow beam if you really want to make that more narrow. There's also something called the Intensifier, which is interesting. It looks like a diffusion box like this, except that it uses similar process as like Fresnel lenses, and it's trying to intensify that light. So whenever you throw a diffusion on, you're losing a stop or so of light. You're losing light power because of that diffusion. What this is trying to do is compensate for that. So you're getting a diffused look from this modifier, but it's trying to intensify it so that your light loss is minimal. And I think there's only like 5 lumens lost once you put this intensifier onto it. But then also like just this look, this panelized look adds a whole like visual interest. If you're trying to put these lights, quite often I like to have lights on camera in the shot as a practical, just to add some visual interest. And so this might give it away that you're a film light, but something like this, you can hide within your production design, within your set design, or just put it behind things just to change up, make it a little light box. Especially when you start adding all 4 of these, you can do some pretty cool looking things using these panels and really hide the fact that they're production lights and just start adding value to your production. A lot of fun to work with. Again, these lights, really the amount of options that you have from both the DMX style controls, the effects, and then having the modifiers is kind of why these lights are pricey. And they are pretty pricey. You're not going to buy these just for having a light. You're really going to have some ideas on what you want to do and some very use case stuff. And again, they're very durable. They're water resistant. You can have them outside running in the rain. You probably don't want to dunk them in water or in a pool. You can't bring them underwater, but Astera's products have always been pretty weatherproof when it comes to kind of rough and rugged productions. But again, $400, you're paying a lot for that Titan engine. You're paying a lot for how they're built. And same with those Titan tubes, which run about $800 or so per light. So again, part of the higher end production world, you're not really gonna buy a whole bunch of these, but rentals maybe when you're rigging out a production, or if you do a lot of photography or video work that uses a lot of lighting gags and lighting effects, then this might be something that you would look into simply because of the amount of control that you have over them. So now let's crack into the Titan engine itself. I'm gonna kill this light and show you on the app here what you have access to. So right now I have it all linked up to a parent. So You can use a Bluetooth bridge. It's what's called a Bluetooth bridge. It's a unit that you'll plug in that you can then manage all your lights through this one hub, but you don't have to. All of these have Bluetooth bridge capabilities built into them. And so essentially I have this one set up as the parent. This is the one giving all of these direction from my phone. And so as long as this one's plugged in and turned on, and you can change all this as you wish throughout your shoot. But I have that one set up as the parent. From here you have sync sets. This will synchronize your light groups so that they all act the same as you set them up. Flow light is what I was talking about earlier. It is having sort of effects move through, basically linking those 6 panels together to make multiple panels that all interact together, or just individual lights, or you can just do all lights. So from all lights you can see you just have like master control. Turn the volumes down and up. You can jump over to your effects panels here. You can have all of your effects, wedding, slow movements, ice, fire, rainbow, all that stuff. And then you can also modify the way those fade in and out, the speed that they work off of, the brightness, or do random, or just the pattern. Let's say we jump into fire, you can sort of tell it what kind of fire, what colors your fire are, if you want it to loop, etc. So let's check out Rainbow. Rainbow is a popular one with Astera. So here you can see that it's using 2 pixels at a time to give you a rainbow feature. Fire is something a little bit more randomized, and so you get all 6 pixels sort of bouncing between those 2 colors at different intensities to give you, again, that fiery, that firelight look to it. And so from here you can see what's possible to do with a single light. But really, what this stuff is great for is syncing these things up and making some DMX style sets. So let's do a flow set here. So there you go. Now you can see that they're all sort of operating as one unit. I have this effect just being like a light streak that goes down the line of lights. And I have black set up as my second color so that it just stays off. And so this is more so you can see the light pattern moving. But if I want to change this to like any other color, let's go green and white. That's not a good example. So now here, yeah, pink and white. So you can see my colors will stay pink and that white stripe will go through. And this is just one of the effects, wedding. It's just a single source moving through a larger source. But if I wanted to do anything else, slow movements, everything will just work together. And then again, treat it as a single light source. Pretty cool. And one of the movies recently that I saw that was, I was reminded of the power of these lights was Everything Everywhere All at Once, a movie that came out earlier this year. And there's a lot of scenes where I believe the main character's name is Evelyn, is moving through time and space, or something's happening, and there's a lot of flickering lights sort of flashing everywhere. And Astera was a big light source for that company. I believe when they did like the everything inside the building, they essentially they took out all of the fluorescent lights, had Astera Titan Tubes in there, so that when certain events happened, they could make all those things strobe, flash, blink, etc. And then for her face shots, they did a pretty interesting thing. Is they took 3 Titan Tubes and made a triangle frame around the camera. And so they had it set up so that the light was sort of going around her face as she was flying through. And that's something I wanted to try and recreate using this setup. It's a lot smaller of a source light, but I think if I arrange these correctly, I can try and mimic that lighting style and effect and show you again how that works. So there you have it, the Astera HydraPanel's production light. It's a little pricey, but a lot of fun to work with. And if you have the chance to mess around with it on a set or do any kind of lighting design using this system, I highly recommend it. Thank you guys for checking this video out, and I'll see you next time on Tested.com. Bye.